Hi, and welcome all to the annual podcast of Sunjay Kapur, Chairman of Sona Comstar. This year's theme is called 2022, Sum and Substance. And the reason behind this theme is very simple, because when I asked Sanjay what was the single most powerful learning from 2022, he very swiftly said, adapting to the new world. And therefore, when I sat down to think about what the new world was all about, I was led to a fabulous series of pieces in the Harvard Business Review. And I thought that they could be a powerful thread to weave our conversation, and in this process, ascertain Sanjay's perspectives on all these changes in this world. It is an extremely evocative, insightful, and rather large subject, and therefore I'm sure we're all intrigued to find out Sanjay's point of view. So to start with, Sanjay, Henry Timms said that the new world was about new power. And new power is old power upside down. It is collaborative, it is open, it is inclusive. He says that power is no longer currency, which is very interesting. He says instead power is current, an electric current that surges and flows. What are your views on the new power as a new leader? And what changes does it take from leaders to understand and exude this new power? This new power about being collaborative, open, and inclusive.
Thanks, Swapan. I think, that's a very interesting way of looking at things. And I think when Henry Timms refers to the new power, it's really, you use the right word, collaborative. And it's also where everyone can participate in an initiative. So I think it's bringing things together in a very different way, where earlier power rested with a few people or a few companies. Today with the digitization that's happened and the digitalization that's happening, across the globe, and the kind of collaboration that is possible, we're seeing a completely new power emerge. And, to give you examples of this is, collaborating across borders of companies which are small, companies which are large. And if you look at the entire startup ecosystem, the kind of innovation that's happening and the kind of disruption that's happening, in the ecosystem, in the startup ecosystem, and the way that they're able to collaborate with much larger organizations. This just shows us that, there's a shift in mindset and a shift in thinking of what power looks like. Whilst, as I said earlier, it rested with a few, today, it's across borders, it's sharing experiences. There's so much data that's being able to that we're able to share across companies, across innovation platforms, and I think that's really the way the world is headed. And the right word again is collaboration. We saw a term back in the past called collaborate or die, and I think that's more apparent now than ever before, because when you look at what's happening in every industry, whether it be, in the automotive industry or in fintech or in the retail space, it's about how you're bringing together, a whole bunch of different companies, different innovations and different aspects together to form one solution. And I think that's really what Henry Timms refers to as well when he talks about digital power, or he talks about, the new power.
Wonderful. So to sum up your point is, I think you're talking about two things. You're talking about the fact that leadership is now a democracy and not an autocracy. And more importantly, that the new leader is actually a goat-herd who's shepherding various people, various companies, various colleagues, various perspectives, and putting them together and making the flock go forward. Wonderful. On to our next question then. One of them also said that the new world is about empathy. It's about being human. It's about understanding communities, beliefs, demographics, and diversity. And many organizations are actually appointing chief diversity officers. What is your view on empathy, and how do you aspire for its implementation in the Sona workplace?
So, Swapan, I think, a lot of this gets covered by this terminology that we're using now called ESG, which is environment, social, and governance. And whilst I think governance and compliance is something that, a lot of companies have looked at, and understood well, environment is also something that companies have looked at and understood very well from the past. We've had sustainability initiatives, you've had sustainability reports, you've looked at all kinds of sustainability. I think the real key focus now for us to look at is the social aspect, and diversity, gender diversity, and everything else to do with the workplace with regard to people becomes extremely important. So empathy is one part of it. I feel that the stress on creating an environment that's conducive to bring in the right talent, to retain the right talent, and to give back to people is becoming more and more apparent. And I think, when we went through the COVID crisis, we saw the importance of people, and the importance of how we looked after each and every individual. Life became so much more important, and it became so apparent that, everything that we do today is about creating the right environment, for talent. And if you look at organizations, like ourselves as well, we're constantly making sure that we are a great place to work. Whilst the Great Place to Work surveys and and initiatives have been around for long, I don't think companies have paid as much attention to it as they do today. And that again goes back to looking after the employees, looking after people. That emphasis on the social aspect of ESG. So I think whilst we will see chief diversity officers, we'll see a lot of stress on ESG going forward. We'll see a lot of people put in place to manage that aspect of the organization. And I think, over the next 10 years, it'll become a hygiene factor. We looked at quality, we looked at, cost and delivery in our industry specifically as a very important part of our industry when we began the manufacturing journey specifically in India. And I think ESG will become a hygiene factor over the years because it's so important, to look at and to introspect in terms of what we're able to do for both, for all three, for environment, for social, and for governance.
Interesting. Another interesting aspect of the new world is the need, they say, for women to reframe their relationship to power. Now, that's an interesting phrase, reframe their relationship to power. They believe that women no longer need mentors offering advice. They need sponsors who will put their own careers on the line to advance that of someone they believe in. What do you think is a new relationship between women and power? And how do you plan to install more women in places of power in your organization? I know it's a fact that, and maybe I'm wrong, but you can correct me then, that I believe that there are not enough women in the entire auto or the engineering or the innovation domain as much as they should be. And I'm also equally aware of the fact about what you're doing with Ashoka University, where you sponsored 14 ladies STEM scholars. So obviously you have a perspective about women. You are concerned about how they must reframe their world as far as the corporate world is concerned. So what is your point of view?
Yeah, Swapan, you're right. There's a lot of talent out there, and we're not able to tap that talent for different reasons. And maybe this goes back to, where women always felt that manufacturing may not have been the place for them. However, the number of women in the assembly shops has increased dramatically because, that's really where we don't have jobs which require people to pick up heavy loads, etc. And that's really what deterred women earlier on from being in manufacturing. However, the talent that they have, or the talent exists even in terms of innovation, even in terms of precision. When I look at other businesses, and I'll give you an example. I was in a factory in Israel, and I was looking at wet layups, which is a carbon fiber layup of the wingspan, the wings of an aircraft. And they said to me that we only hire women to do this job because the precision that they bring to the job is phenomenal compared to what men do. So there are lots of opportunities, and I think the mindset needs to shift in terms of only men being in the manufacturing space. And then when you look at design and you look at innovation, and you look at any job, I mean, there are several women CEOs today, and they're very capable, very able, And, our endeavor is to bring more women into the workplace and into our organization as well. I think it's great that the regulations demand that there are women on boards today. And I think that needs to increase. And I think, we need to put more emphasis on bringing women into the workplace, because there's a lot of value that they add. And I think we need to get out that mold or that mindset that this is only a man's job when it comes to manufacturing. You've seen in the service sector, you've seen the number of women increasing, in the service sector, and we hope to see that happen in manufacturing as well. And like I said, even though we've seen that in the assembly area, we hope to see it across the board, specifically in the boardrooms, in C-suite, in the executive positions. So we look forward to doing that.
Sure. They also say that in the new world, degrees will no longer matter. Now, I'm privy to conversations you've had in the past. They say that skills will matter. And Ryan Rolansky of LinkedIn said that even if you don't change your job is going to change on you. I'm acutely aware about how seized you are about skilling. Share your perspective with our listeners.
So, Swapan, I feel that education is extremely important. So I wouldn't put a stress on whether a degree matters or not. It's how you learn that's extremely important. I think learning is a lifelong process. And you talk about skilling, and I think skilling has become so much more important today because of the nature of the disruption in every industry. Every industry is seeing, a whole lot of disruption, and therefore we need to attune ourselves to the disruption, and therefore need to continuously skill and reskill the workforce. And I don't just mean workforce in terms of, labor, in terms of the manufacturing or, on the shop floor, etc., but across the board. I think even executives, even people like you and I mean, when we sort of look at what's happening in the world, we need to keep, educating ourselves and skilling ourselves for the new world. And you look at AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, things like this are going to drastically change the way we look at the workplace, the way that work is carried out, and the way that things, happen. And therefore, we're going to continuously have to, reskill ourselves and readjust ourselves to the new world order. And so I believe, whilst, they may say that a degree doesn't matter, I think education is extremely important. And like I said, it's a lifelong learning. I think training and development within organizations is key to building any kind of success in an organization, because people need it.
Sorry, and they say that creativity will be at the center of strategy, and we've seen it up close. I mean, look at what happened with PVR during the pandemic, pivoting into popcorn manufacturing and home sanitization. And who would have ever thought that a screener of films would ever need to lean on that kind of creativity to sustain their businesses? What do you see as the role of creativity in a business such as yours?
I think it's extremely important, creativity, innovation. And again, I keep using this word, and I've used it throughout our conversation, disruption. With everything that's happening around the world, with everything that's happening with regulation as well as consumer demand, we're going to have to look at innovative solutions. When you look at, and I was talking to someone the other day, when you look at the car, there are two kinds of users. One is the enthusiast that may still want, the internal combustion engine, may still want the sound and the noise and, the entire feeling of having something that they can control, with an engine that has a lot of power. And then there's the functional user, who may want to go from point A to B and require completely different attributes of the vehicle, or may require the vehicle to have several different attributes, and therefore connectivity, telematics, autonomous is becoming so big in our industry. And that's really, the way that we look at our industry in terms of how it's pivoting from your traditional vehicle that went from point A to B and served a certain function to a completely different vehicle that goes to the same point A to B and serves a completely different function altogether. So, as we look at autonomous driving, as we look at, ride sharing, So in the industry, we have, this terminology called CASE, which is connectivity, autonomous, electric, and shared. And I think that's more apparent than ever before. And therefore, I think businesses will have to invest in R&D. Businesses like ours or businesses in the auto component space are going to have to heavily invest in R&D. Today, unfortunately, the average spend in our industry is 0.5% of revenue, and this will have to go to 3 to 5%, which is a big jump from where we are today. And all that spend is going to have to come in innovative solutions, and we are going to have to innovate so that our customers are happy or are more sort of attracted to the product that we bring to the market. So there's two aspects to it. Like I said in the beginning, there's the regulatory aspect, and then there's the consumer demand. So I think we're going to have to cater to both, and we're going to have to continuously innovate. And this is a journey that every company is going to have to to look at very seriously to survive. Even forget thriving, but even to survive, we're going to have to look at innovation.
Which really brings me to the last question. And interesting that love was going to be part of this new world. But Marcus Buckingham said that love is the key to career success. If you have no love for any of your work, you won't be creative, innovative, or resilient. So how must corporations build love between them and their colleagues?
I think it's a very good quote, and you're right in terms of the fact that you got to love what you do, and case in point, I love the manufacturing space. I love the automotive industry. I love that everything that we do is something that makes an impact to the end consumer, the end user, and that's really what drives me personally, and I think that's what drives each one of our team members in our organization, because we love the fact that we can bring out products that are going to make a huge impact in the way that people drive vehicles, and that's what we do. And I think when you look at organizations, it's very important to see how the employees can help achieving the goals of the organization, and how the organization can help the employees achieve their own goals. So I think it's a collaborative effort. Going back to our first point of collaboration, I think it's a collaborative effort, and it's an effort where it's a two-way street. Where the team is helping the organization reach their goals, and the organization helping the team reach their goals. And a lot of it has to do with loving what you do, with being proud of what you do, and in the job or in the workplace, so that you can really bring about solutions that make a difference. I think when we're working, we're all working to make a difference and to make a change, and that's really what's driving us in our organization. And I hope we can continue to do that.
Thank you so much for your time, Sanjay. And I wish you and your family and the entire Sona family a splendid 2023. All the very best.
Thank you, Swapan, and right back at you from all of us.
Thanks again.